I'm Jana Wasonko, and this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios on Kaiba Avenue. Thanks for joining us. And here are the main news headlines, including local, international, and sports. After trial lasting 5 years, the High Court of the Gambia has handed down a landmark judgment sentencing to death 5 former senior members of the now-defunct National Intelligence Agency, the NIA, for their murder of Ibrahima Solo Sandeng in April 2016. President Adama Barrow has called project contractors working on OIC Road project to an emergency meeting on Friday after he expressed disappointment at the slow pace of works following a day-long visit to several project sites. The National Assembly of the Gambia began a 2-day capacity-building workshop for the Gambian parliamentarians organized by the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation in collaboration with the ECOWAS Parliament. In international news, this July, the African Union marked its 20th anniversary. We look at what the organization has achieved in that time. And in sports news, Botswana and Morocco have made it through to the semi-finals after their first 2 quarter-final of this year's Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us. I am Jana Bosonko and you're watching QTV News. Now, after trial lasting 5 years, the High Court of the Gambia has handed down a landmark judgment sentencing to death 5 former senior members of the now-defunct National Intelligence Agency, the NIA, for their murder of Ibrahima Solo Sandeng in April 2016. Many view the ruling as the first breakthrough in delivering justice for the victims of Yahya Jammeh-led regime. Mamadou Lamin Choi witnessed the judgment and has the latest in this special extended report.
The long journey to justice has come to an end after the 5-year trial of former senior officials of the defunct National Intelligence Agency for their alleged murder of Ibrahima Solo Sandeng, at the time a member of the opposition party, UDP. Those sentenced are Yankuba Baji, the former Director General of the NIA, Sheikh Omar Jang, a former NIA Director of Operations, Babukar Sala, Tamba Masire, and Lamin Dabo. During the trial, one of the accused, Louis Gomez, a former Deputy Director of NIA, died, while Yusufa Jammeh, another accused, was acquitted for lack of evidence. On Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. in a crowded courtroom, the trial judge, Justice Kumbasila Kamara, began reading out the allegedly over 200 pages long judgment to declare her verdict on the court case. The prosecutions had laid 25 charges against the 9 accused, which included murder, causing grievous harm, accessory, conspiracy to commit felony, fraudulently preparing a death certificate, forgery, making a document without authority, fabrication of evidence, disobedience of statutory duties, and abduction. All of this relating to act of and the aftermath of the circumstances surrounding the murder of the late Ibrahima Solo Sandeng. For all these charges, like in all criminal cases, the burden to prove beyond reasonable doubt the guilt of the accused lies with the state's prosecution team of lawyers. By the end of the trial, dozens of witnesses and pieces of evidence had been tendered before the High Court. The moment everyone has been waiting, some in hopeful anticipation, others with dread, arrived after more than 12 hours, apart from a few breaks of delivering her judgment. Yankuba Baji, Sheikh Omar Jang, Babukar Sala, Masire Tamba, and Lamin Dabo were found guilty of the murder of Ibrahima Solo Sandeng in April 2016. Before pronouncing the jail terms, each of the accused was invited by the judge to react to the verdict. But the dramatic tension which could be felt in the courtroom snapped in a heated exchange between 2 women believed to be from the families of the victims and accused, swiftly descended in a scuffle. Prison and PIU officers had to intervene to separate the two. The judge later called for silence and decorum and threatened to hold to contempt anyone else interrupting the proceedings. In an emotionally charged atmosphere, the proceeding resumed, with each of the convicted taking the microphone in turn to beg for clemency. First to speak is the former NIA DG, Yankuba Baji, who said, and I quote, "Your lady," referring to the judge, "I beg for your mercy on your sentence. As you can see, all of us are with family, with small children. I beg for you to have mercy on your sentence." End of quote. Ending his statement, Baji breaks down in tears. This was the common statement from the other convicts, all of whom pleaded not guilty throughout the 5-year-long trial. Following the appeal for clemency, the prosecution congratulates the judge for the historic judgment, saying that the law has taken its course, adding that everything is now in the hands of the judge to finally decide. It was at this juncture that Justice Kumbasila Kamara refers to the Constitution, which holds that it is mandatory for a person convicted of murder to be sentenced to death. She goes further to state that, quote, "Due to the heinous crimes committed leading to the gruesome murder of Ibrahima Solo Sandeng by the 5 murder convicts, they are sentenced to death." End of quote. The sentence to death, according to our laws, is by hanging. Each of the convicts are sentenced to 10 years for conspiracy to commit murder, 5 years for causing grievous harm to Nogo Njai, Kafu Bayo, Modungom, Fatumata Jawara, a current nominated member of the National Assembly, Ibrahima Jabang, and Fatumata Kamara. They also each attract 5-year jail term for conspiracy to commit felony. These sentences are to run concurrently. The 9th accused, Lamin Langsanyang, a former NIA medic, is found guilty on 2 counts, one attracting 10 years in jail and the other 5 years. The offences are forgery of death certificate of Solo Sandeng and making a document without authority. The 1st, 3rd, and 9th accused, Yankuba Baji, Babukar Sala, and Lamin Langsanyang respectively, have more sentences on another count amounting to 5 years for fabricating evidence with intent to mislead a judicial proceeding in a murder trial. The former NIA DG attracts another year jail term for disobedience to statutory duty. For the offence of abducting to murder and for abducting Ibrahima Solo Sandeng to subject him to grievous harm, Yankuba Baji and Babukar Sala are sentenced to 8 years and 6 years imprisonment respectively. All these sentences are to run concurrently, and the time spent on remand shall be considered when the jail terms are implemented. The verdict on the 6th accused is that the state prosecution has failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt the guilt of Haruna Suso. Justice Kumbasila Kamara discharges and acquits Suso, thus authorizing his immediate release. Fatumata Sandeng is a daughter of the late Solo Sandeng and spoke to QTV's This Morning program.
It is a relief because one thing is factual, we cannot bring my dad back, but the fact that those who took part in his torture to death being brought to book, it also sets an example in the whole transitional justice process in the Gambia, in the history of the country, to know that you cannot kill innocent people and get away with it.
The end of the marathon judgment sees some going home with shock and pain, while others celebrate for finally getting justice for a loved one and member of their family, Ibrahima Solo Sandeng, who was brutally murdered 6 years ago by operatives of a state organ. Mohamed Lamin Choi, QTV News.
Mohamed Lamin Choi there on that interesting piece on the NIA 9 trial. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the presidency, as President Adama Barrow has called project contractors working on OIC road project to an emergency meeting on Friday after he expressed disappointment at the slow pace of works following a day-long visit to several project sites. Ansumana Isonyasi was with the team and fastened this report.
This is one of several site visits the president has embarked on since the commencement of work at OIC project sites. It is aimed at giving the head of state first-hand information on the progress of the work. Accompanied by cabinet ministers, senior government and OIC Gambia Secretariat officials, the president first visited the VVIP lounge at the Banjul International Airport in Yundum. Following a tour of the facility, he tells the press he is impressed with the progress and expresses hope that the work will complete by the agreed time.
The minister have been briefing me and technicians. But I said it's not enough, I have to come and see for myself. But so far, I'm very happy with the VIP launch, because the progress is like they are about 50-something%. According to the technicians, they are 2 months ahead of the time. So their target time to finish is around November.
From the VVIP lounge complex at the airport, the president and his delegation visited the main airport coastal road highway, which is also under construction. Impressed with progress of works here, he encourages the contractors to keep up the good work. However, he also implored them to expedite the process to complete work in time. He then proceeds to the Willinkama Zion Workshop P20 Road and Brufut Kololi P6 Road. As with the other sites he visited, he stops to exchange pleasantries with residents, many of whom are out to welcome him in appreciation of ongoing works in their neighborhoods. The president then proceeds to the Kairaba Avenue, Banjul Serekunda P6 Highway. Unlike at the airport and the Kombo Costa Road Highway, work here is moving very slowly, and the president doesn't hold back from expressing his disappointment. But do we have an idea what is responsible for the slow pace of works in some of these areas?
We don't know what is responsible as of now. There are a lot of explanations, but I think technicians should sit around the table with government to discuss this with our technicians also, and look at what are the problems. But there is a problem.
He also reveals he has summoned the contractors to an emergency meeting at his office on Friday and wants serious work to commence immediately.
Definitely, we are not very happy. To me, I'm not happy, and I'm even disappointed with this Lot 1 and Lot 2. There is a problem, but I have called on a meeting, an emergency meeting tomorrow at my office at 12:30, so that all the stakeholders will come together. We discuss about these roads, how can we move faster than the way we are doing now.
Meanwhile, he also expressed optimism that the Gambia will host the OIC summit. Answana Sonyase for KTV News.
Looking forward to results from that meeting. Now, from that story by Ansumane Sonyase, we will go for a short commercial break, and when we return, we have some more local news stories for you, international as well as sports. Do stay tuned.
QMoney is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new QMoney app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy QPower, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send QMoney, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sinu Calpe. We innovate, others follow.
Have you been looking for the perfect indoor router with long-range Wi-Fi coverage and faster internet speed connecting all your smart devices? Well, we present to you the QCell Indoor Router, a router that has all you need and much more. For just $4,275, you can get 4G plus internet speed, wide coverage, and connect up to 15 devices. And that's not all. The indoor router can be used for both office and home needs. So, enhance your internet experience with our indoor router. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus, we innovate, others follow.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV News, and I am Jennifer Sonko. Now, the National Assembly of the Gambia began a two-day capacity-building workshop for the Gambian parliamentarians organized by the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation in collaboration with the ECOWAS Parliament as part of efforts to consolidate democracy in our sub-region. Our reporter Omar Pijalo attended the opening and fastened this report. All right, we apologize for that interruption there. So from that, we will head right on to News Beyond Our Borders and work on bringing you that story shortly. This July, the African Union marks its 20th anniversary, and the organization has achieved much in that time. However, critics say the AU has a lot more to do for the continent's prosperity. More in this report by Ajibintu Drame.
The African Union is a continental body of the 55 member states in Africa. The launch of the African Union on July 9, 2002 was met with great optimism as it transitioned from the Organization of African Unity, the OAU. The formation of the organization was guided by its vision of an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa. driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. 20 years on, the organization has registered some accomplishment, especially when it comes to amplifying Africa's voice on the global stage and making strides to break down the continent's trade barriers. However, critics say the African Union still has a lot to do, especially with the conflicts on undemocratic changes of government that threaten the continent's prosperity, as well as finding a unified voice to tackle climate change. The African Union was launched in 2002 as a successor to the Organization of African Unity, with a need to refocus attention away from the fight for decolonization and ridding the continent of apartheid, which had long been at the focus of the OAU, towards increased cooperation and integration of African states to drive Africa's growth and economic development. The organization has been praised for its role in coordinating the continent's pandemic response and lobbying for vaccine access and COVID-19 debt relief. In trade, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement was created to create a single market for goods and services, expected to boost intra-Africa trade by about $35 billion, and also make it easier to attract large-scale infrastructure investment because of the bigger size of the market. Criticized for its political landscape for conflicts and undemocratic changes of government, the African Union has recently suspended the membership of Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea and Sudan after military coup. On the other hand, coup leaders in these countries have ignored the African Union's calls for a return to democratic government. The African Union is also accused of being soft and taking a different stance when it comes to leaders overstaying their terms or amending their constitutions to stay in power. Among these, the organization has been strongly criticized for its silence on the case of Guinean President Alpha Condé, who stood for a controversial third term in 2020 after constitutional changes. Less than a year later, Condé was deposed in a military coup supported by many cheering Guineans. To further ensure the realization of its objectives and the attainment of the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa, the AU's Agenda 2063 calls for greater collaboration and support for African-led initiatives to ensure the achievement of the aspirations of African people. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
From News Beyond Our Borders, we just quickly go back to local news as the National Assembly of the Gambia began a two-day capacity-building workshop for the Gambian parliamentarians organized by the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation in collaboration with the ECOWAS Parliament as part of efforts to consolidate democracy in our sub-region. Our reporter Omar Pijalo attended the opening and fastened this report.
The legislature is a critical element of an effective democracy. Its role in lawmaking, representation and oversight makes it an indispensable part of the government. As democratically elected representatives, parliamentarians ensure that individual and collective well-being is provided in accordance with the will of the people. However, a fairly new assembly, with the majority being first-time parliamentarians, without capacity might become a challenging and complex landscape to navigate, making it difficult for Parliament to deliver accountability. The executive director of the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation, Anne Lionu, said parliamentarians are elected on party or independent tickets, but once elected should rise above party politics and work in the interest of the country.
Parliamentarians play a very crucial role in every democratic dispensation. Your role as parliamentarians seated here today cannot be overemphasized.
The clerk of the National Assembly, Mamadou A. Cisse, described the training as timely and relevant, citing the majority of the parliamentarians are new and are expected to play a key role in the promotion of democracy and good governance in the Gambia.
Parliament, as one of the key state institutions in the democratic system of governance, have a critical role to play in promoting democracy and good governance. As the democratic elected representatives of the people, Parliament have honorable tasks to ensure government by the people and for the people.
The former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, believed that lack of capacity and inadequate expertise exposes parliamentarians to a mounting multitude of challenges in conducting their responsibilities effectively.
Sometimes as parliamentarians, you look at your party interests, and the national interest. It's like as if it's in the dynamic duo. Where do we go from here? And of course, you know that political parties, by their nature, always have their agenda.
The Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Badara Ejuf, thanked the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation and the ECOWAS Parliament for the partnership and urged the participants to take the training seriously and assess government's commitment to such partnerships.
The capacity development engagement for National Assembly members is indeed timely and urgent and falls within the strategic priorities of the government, as the legislature plays an important role in the life of a nation and in the government process. The National Assembly makes the laws that govern our country, represent and articulate the views and wishes of the citizens in decision-making process, and oversee the activities of the executive so that the government is accountable to the people as enshrined in the Constitution.
The Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Fabakary Tombong Jatta, said it is imperative to enhance and strengthen the role of the parliamentarians by building their capacity to better deliver on their legislative mandate, especially as majority of them are first-timers. Speaker Jatta thanked the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation and the ECOWAS Parliament for responding to his request.
The ongoing oversight engagement of committees also demonstrates the determination of the National Assembly to hold government accountable and become a meaningful partner in the enhancement of good governance, democracy, and the rule of law.
With this training, Gambians will be hoping that the current parliament will be able to transcend partisan lines and put people's interests at the center of their policy making. The Goodluck Jonathan Foundation, founded by the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, is an independent non-governmental organization established in 2015 for the advancement of peace and prosperity on the African continent. The foundation is dedicated to promoting peace and reconciliation, advancing democratic governance, advocating for inclusive governance and economic development, promoting citizens' rights, and continental and national integration. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
From that story by Omar P. Jallo, let's take a look at what is happening in the world of sports. Botswana and Morocco have made it through to the semi-finals after their first two quarter-final of this year's Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The result also guarantees them a place in the next year's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. More in this report.
As Senegal and Zambia lined up for the first of this year's quarter-finals, the fans were sure of one thing: they were likely to see an exciting game, and so it proved. The game was tightly contested right to the end. Both teams knew there was a lot at stake in this game. Ahead of them lay not just a semi-final spot, but automatic qualification to next year's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. It was no surprise they went to the break level. What was a surprise was that it was 0-0 at half-time. Senegal broke the deadlock in the 61st minute when Ngena Njai headed in a free kick from Sow from almost under the crossbar. Of the 5 goals scored in the 2 games in open play on the night, 3 came from almost identical free kicks out on the right, taken left-footed. 9 minutes later in this game, Zambia were handed an equaliser when Senegal's goalkeeper spilled a simple cross to give Abel Chetundu a simple close-range header. The sides could not be separated after failing to score in full-time or extra time. In the resulting penalty shootout, Zambia's Grace Chanda converted the first. This was followed by Senegal's Koka Fall, who dragged her shot wide of the post. Both teams then converted their next 2 spot kicks. Lushombo Mwemba then missed, to be followed by Senegal striker Jakite, who also did the same. This left Zambia keeper Hazel Nali to calmly step up and score to win the match, sparking wild celebrations for the Copper Queens and misery for the Teranga Lionesses. Zambia await the winners of Thursday's match between South Africa and Tunisia. Next up was the match all Morocco fans had been waiting for. Their darling Atlas Lionesses were facing off against Botswana. It didn't take long to get an already excited crowd off their seats Morocco took the lead in the 3rd minute with a free kick on the right, taken left-footed by Fatima Tagnaout, with Msudi Sana getting just the right touch to send it past Botswana goalie Boseja. Just as the Morocco fans were hoping their team would run away with it, an almost identical free kick at the other end was swung in and into the top corner past a despairing Emrichi in the Morocco goal. The stadium was stunned, and they realised this was not going to be a walkover. Despite being a skillful ball-playing side, Botswana seemed content for Morocco to have most of the ball and to play on the counter-attack. The sides went in at half-time level at 1-1, but with Morocco having 62% of the possession. Just before the hour mark, Morocco won a free kick, again from almost the exact spot from which Botswana had scored. Fatima Tagnaout again. This time it was cleared, but it landed back at her feet, and she had time enough to float in a beautiful cross, which was headed in by Yasmin Umrabet, almost on the goal line. Botswana tried to change their game plan and attack more, but they looked less like scoring and were in greater danger of falling further behind to a skillful, well-drilled Moroccan side. However, there were no further scores, and the final whistle was an opportunity for wild celebrations by Moroccan players, fans and coaching staff. Woman of the match went to Moroccan captain Ghislaine Chebak. However, tricky winger Fatima Tagnaout must have wondered why it didn't go to her, with both assists for the goals and an all-round display that tormented Botswana throughout the game. So, Morocco are off into the semi-finals and off to next year's World Cup. In their next match, Morocco will face the winner between 11 times champions Nigeria, who are in their 12th quarterfinal, and Cameroon, who face off in the 3rd quarterfinal on Thursday in Casablanca. For QTV News, I am Ade Darami.
From that story by Ade Darami, don't forget to join us at 10 p.m. for another bulletin. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.